Okay. All right. Here is that moment of truth. This is where we wait for all up. Twitter is awake. So good morning, Twitter. How are you? Or Periscope. Does anyone say Periscope anymore? I don't think anyone does. But technically it's like, Twitter. All right. So YouTube is awake. YouTube, are you there? I think we got YouTube. We got ourselves some YouTube. What's up, YouTube? Good morning, YouTube. So we just got to wait for Rockfin to wake up. Then we are official. And Rockfin is here. I said it and it happened. How's that? I'll take it. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone in the future, Australia, New Zealand. How's it going? Fix climate change. Let the rest of us know what to do. For everyone listening to the podcast later, how are you? Write a review, would you? Leave a nice 5-star review. That'd be great if you would do that. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. This is the headline show, and we got a lot to get through. But first, a shout out to some of our friends who helped make this show possible, our friends over at Indie Left. Indie Left is a place to find a bunch of the content creators you know and love. They curate a list of articles, of streamers, of podcasters, and they update it twice a day. It's just a list of all kinds of different news and perspectives. To find out everything they got going on and to subscribe to their Discord, go to independentleft.media. All right, so first of all, let me bring in my guest who helps me through the headlines. She comes on here once a month, and we call it that time of the month. Please welcome back to the show, the one and only Savage Joy. Joy, how are you?
I'm good. Hanging in there. How about yourself?
I'm good. I like your scarf. It's very and I dig it. And also, we got some fun headlines today. We got something. First of all, we were going to start with some climate change news. Apparently, we're amidst the worst drought in 1,200 years. We'll be unpacking that later. There's some news regarding digital libraries. I love all libraries. So we got some news pertaining to some digital libraries and how they're actually trying to have digital book burnings now, that is quite something. But what we move off with instead of the climate change story is what's going on over at Amazon, because we got some breaking stuff there. I don't know if you saw this yet, but let's start with a tweet from Jordan Chariton over at Status Quo. Jordan tweeted this. Breaking, the Amazon union election for Staten Island's mega warehouse will begin on March 25th and end on March 30th. It will be an in-person election. Amazon labor workers at the warehouse have been organizing daily for this for nearly a year. So Jordan tweeted this February 16th at 8:07 in the morning. I mentioned this because it becomes relevant a little later, but basically, the folks over at the Staten Island warehouse have been trying to organize for a union vote. They got their union vote. As you recall, we covered this on this show, and Joy, I'm pretty sure you and I talked about it. When they did the vote in Bessemer, Alabama, the union vote in Bessemer, Amazon pulled out every dirty trick in the book. I'm not going to review it all again because we talked about it so many times, but they pulled out so many dirty tricks that the National Labor Board said, you have to redo this. This is just too shady. You have to freaking redo it. So I'm sure that Jeff Bezos is in his penis rocket right now, plotting out how can I be an even bigger asshole for this union vote. And by the way, if they do end up doing it in person, and we're going to go to another thing here in a minute where it's like, well, maybe that's not going to be the case. If they do it in person, what I'd imagine they'll do, if you vote yes, they need to take a facial recognition scan of you and have your face in a database. But if you vote no, they give you a free cookie and 2 days of free Prime. I'm pretty sure that's what they'll do. You get free shipping for 2 days.
So and you get Jeff Bezos' fashionable outfit that he wore.
He gives you a cowboy hat.
Ooh.
He gives you a stupid cowboy hat. Remember that where he like landed from his penis rocket and then he had he was in his goofy cowboy hat and he was high-fiving people who I'm sure they were not paid to be there.
No.
He's like, yeah, I'm high-fiving other humans just like a regular human. But so here's why I mention all this. I almost knocked my water over. But all right, so this audio was leaked, and this is why we're leading off with this story. This is kind of breaking. There's some leaked audio from a meeting that Amazon had immediately. So as soon as it was announced that they're having this election, Amazon started with a ton of anti-union stuff. They were sending out anti-union emails. They had this meeting, and someone obtained some audio from this meeting. We're going to listen to it. leaked audio, Amazon union buster warned things could become worse for workers. So at one point in this meeting, we're just going to listen to it. But they basically hinted that workers could be demoted back to minimum wage if they vote to unionize, if they form a union. So how did they get there? We're just going to listen to this. Now, full disclaimer, this audio is not the greatest because this was, I'd imagine, well, this was taken by a worker, and I'd imagine they were trying to be as stealthy as they could. So I'd imagine their phone might have been in their pocket, or it might have been behind their back or something, but they probably didn't want anyone to know they were recording this. So the audio is not the greatest quality, but I still think it's worthwhile to just listen to the whole thing. So we're going to listen to it. Here is the leaked audio. This was leaked to Vice, and this was from an Amazon meeting on February 16th.
In the near future, the NLRB will set a date for the union election. They'll also decide how long the
all right, we can't, for some reason it's not audible. That's weird. Okay, why is that? Let me check this for a second. It was working fine a minute ago. And now we can't. Could you hear it, Joy? Oh, you could. But I couldn't. Okay, that's weird. You could hear it, but I could not. All right, let me play it again.
For the union election. They'll also decide how long the voting ballot is going to be open for and what format that's going to be in. So is it going to be in person or is it going to be a mail-in election?
Okay. Could you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
You could hear it.
The British lady?
The what?
British lady?
Oh, okay. So you could, for some reason, I can't hear it. That's really weird. You can hear it, but I can't. All right, well, I've listened to it before, so, let's just play it. For some reason, I can't hear this, but all right, let's just play the whole thing.
Once that's been decided, employees will then cast their votes. Once votes have been cast, the NLRB will count all of the votes and will deliver the outcome. Now, the way that they deliver the outcome is really important. So, you guys are the decision makers as to whether union representation will happen here or not. Now, voting is incredibly important. If you consider there are 8,000 associates on this site, or more, the way the voting process works is that it's majority rules. So irrespective of how many people vote, what they decide will impact everyone. If only 100 people on this site vote, and 51 vote yes, all 8,000 plus associates will then be represented by the union. So what that means is everyone's terms and conditions of employment will be up for negotiation, and you will also be liable to pay what's called union dues, which are a representation fee that will be taken straight out of your paycheck and given to the ALU. They haven't told us how much they're going to charge yet, and they haven't told us how often they're going to pay that out, but in New York there is no cap as to how much they can charge. So that's why it's incredibly important that you go out and have your voice heard and make sure that you vote. Because this election has significant and binding consequences if the union wins, not just for yourselves, but for future associates, for your co-workers, and potentially for your family if your paycheck and your budgets are going to have to change. The implementation process is called collective bargaining, and in negotiations there are no guarantees. Nobody can predict the results of a good faith collective bargaining process, and you could end up with better, the same, or worse than you currently have. There are no guarantees as to what the outcome could be.
So wait, you're saying we could end up with worse? What does that mean by that?
So there are no guarantees as to what could happen, right? So we can't make any promises that things will get better or stay the same. They could get worse. We can't promise what's going to happen. Amazon can't promise you that they're going to walk into negotiations and the negotiations will start from the same. They could start from minimum wage, for instance. I'm not saying that would happen, but it is a possibility.
So you're saying that Amazon's going to say minimum
No,
wage?
I just said I'm not saying that's what is going to happen.
So why put that out there?
So, 3 key takeaways for you to reflect upon, okay? Firstly,
they just changed the topic immediately when he asked that.
Wow. He literally was just reiterating exactly what she said. I'm not saying that. Well, props to that person who, bravely recorded that. I'm guessing it was the gentleman who asked the question.
I'm guessing that too. I don't know for sure, but yeah, I'm assuming it's the same person. I don't know if they
Oh
say
my
for sure if
God.
it was or not, but yeah, that's just so. I mean, they said the quiet part out loud that it's like we want to punish you if you form this union, and that's what we're going to try to do because obviously, you know, who is going to go if they're representing the union? Who's going to go in there and be like, okay, so this is what we're getting paid hourly right now. Let's start the negotiation at a lower hourly rate. That's not
Right.
going to happen. So, assuming that they make more than minimum wage right now, which I'm assuming they probably make more than minimum wage, I don't know how much more, that's for sure not going to happen. So, they're saying, and you know, when you look at this big picture, one of the things that we've talked about before, all of these resources and money they spend on all this anti-union, all these anti-union efforts, they could just treat workers better, and it would probably cost them less. But in reality, what they're really scared of, they're not scared of like when they're, doing their bean county capitalist bullshit. They're not just thinking about the year, they're thinking about the future. And they realize that once the genie's out of the bottle, they can't get it back in. So once you have workers unionizing and standing up for themselves and demanding decent pay and dignity, they can't exploit anymore. And that's what they're really scared of. They're not spending all this money just so they can save some money on salaries and benefits. They're spending all this money on anti-union efforts because they don't want a systemic change. That's what they fear the most. They don't want the systemic change to happen.
Yeah, it's power and control. You cannot control your people if you give them a living wage and benefits and such, because you got to make it so that they just don't have anywhere else to go, so that they feel like this is the only place, this is the only job that's really hiring in my area. I just have to suck it up and put up with it. That is the best place they could possibly have you.
Well, and that's what they've always wanted. I mean, Amazon used to be able, and I think they can't do this anymore. But I remember at one point in time, they used to do this thing where if you didn't hit a certain quota, you
Mhm.
wouldn't get paid. And
Yeah.
it wasn't like totally uncommon for people to not reach that quota. But Amazon had it arranged, like there were some loopholes. They were able to get away with that for a long time because I remember when I lived in Seattle. I lived in Seattle from 2007 till about 2010. And that was during, a pretty bad recession. We all remember '08 and stuff like that. So a lot of people in Seattle were like very underemployed, and or they were like just doing a couple gig economy jobs, whatever. And I was I was a new comedian at the time trying to get good at comedy, so most of my friends were just we were just kind of going from random day job to random day job, and as soon as we were offered some road dates, we would quit whatever job that was to go to go live the dream. So anyway, but I remember the Amazon warehouse was always a last resort for everybody because that was a job you could just get it at any point because you may or may not even get paid. And everybody knew that. People knew the risk going into it. If I don't meet this quota, I don't get paid. But literally anyone can get this job because their turnover was so high that you could always get a job there and you were taking a risk.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah, it
I
was
mean,
nuts.
they opened a new one by me, and one of my closest friends got a job there, and she actually like brags about working there, and I don't care because she doesn't watch my shows, so I'll put her on blast. But she's like, oh my god, it's so great, like, and she makes good money, but I think it's just because it just opened, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to warn her that, like, it just opened, and the company overall, even if her location is okay, the company overall will start infiltrating that location. But she'll tell everyone, I work at Amazon, and she's starting to think what people are saying are like isolated incidents. And it's
Oh,
actually
really?
really disturbing to me, because it's like, just because your one location, after being open 2 months, is still okay, like, just please be aware because
Well,
it's a matter of
where is
time.
it? Can you say where it is?
Yeah, it's by me. It's outside of Harrisburg.
So it's
With
in like central Pennsylvania
yeah, like
where
Lewisburg area.
okay,
Yeah.
that is one of the cheapest areas in
Oh
the
yeah.
country. It's a very, very affordable area. So for Amazon, it's probably like, yeah, we can just pay these people a reasonable wage because, a little goes a long way in a place like that. So, yeah, they're probably just drumming up um positivity. I mean, that's
Sure.
probably part of what they're doing because they realize how bad they look. I mean, they have to know. That's why they have these propaganda accounts like Amazon News, where it's basically just PR for Amazon because they're such a despicable company that they need to do. So yeah, I'd imagine they're going into areas where it's just more affordable and more economic because it's cheaper for them to build there. And you can give workers a little and it's enough. So you're like, see, we're not so bad. And it's like, no, you are so bad because
Yeah.
eventually it's like these people are going to have no other option and you're going to start exploiting them.
Yeah, I mean, I told her, I said, beware. I will guarantee you within the next few months, a news crew will be in there to film a commercial. Like, I will 100% guarantee it.
Hmm. So we'll see what happens with the Staten Island warehouse vote that's going to be happening next month. They're supposed to redo the Bessemer vote. We'll keep an eye on that as well. We'll see what happens. But
And they
there you
installed
have.
cameras over the people, like over where people were voting and stuff. And
Oh
then
yeah,
they,
that was
they
so
people,
shady.
it was retaliatory. And the way that they make it a hostage situation. Look, I know you deserve better, circumstance, and I know you deserve better, more pay and stuff like that. But if you actually acknowledge that, you're going to be out of a job and you have
Yeah.
rent to pay and you have kids to take care of. So it really is a hostage situation. You have to, decide, what if I vote for this and it doesn't pass and then I have no
And
income?
they go against me. Oh yeah, and that's why like I don't blame any of the workers for whatever they do because it's like they are
No.
put and they are being intimidated and I mean look at the way they were antagonized in Bessemer where it's like, they had like the thing you just referenced, they put the ballot box just right in a very vulnerable area. There were cameras. There were,
Yeah.
only Amazon's people had access to everything. And they would if you asked like a pro-union question, like a question that like was more pro-worker, pro-union, they took your information.
Yeah.
I mean, they were doing everything to intimidate these workers into voting no, where it's like, look, they can just make up a reason to fire you at any time. So if you vote yes and they know it and it doesn't pass, well, yeah, I mean, you might lose your job. And it's like, I mean, when it's to the point where the labor board is like, "You have to redo this. This is just too shady what you did."
Yes.
It's
Well,
like
what's in place for the redoing of it? That's my concern. What is in place? What
that's the
is going to
concerns
be
they're
different?
expressing. That's the concerns they're expressing. Like they've not I mean, the last time I was, cognizant of it, I haven't seen any updates in recent, but, about a month ago, that was the latest thing. Like they were working on settling on a redoing date. And the other union, like the RWDSU or however those letters are arranged, they were like that's the retail wholesale union. They were expressing they're like, look, we don't really have any confidence Amazon's not going to do all the same dirty tricks they did last time. Like we've gotten no assurance from them that they're not just going to do all the exact same things.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Amazon doesn't have to report to anybody. I mean, it's like this
Remember,
dude.
like, Bezos literally resigned from Amazon, but he's still like, nothing has changed.
Yeah.
It's really fucking weird.
Well, he's one of those guys where, like him and Bezos, they're just sort of outside of the realm of things. They're not, when you think of like a typical CEO, a typical CEO reports to Wall Street, basically.
Yeah.
Like, which is kind of overwhelming to even wrap your head around that it's like CEOs are almost just mid-level. compared to like the people who have these portfolios of assets, like the firms who have these portfolios of assets. They're the people who really run this freaking country. But Bezos is sort of like just totally out of that realm because he just owns everything and he's so freaking wealthy. So he is the CEO. He is the person he reports to too, though. And he's just sort of like a lone shark who is pretty much untouchable. I mean, him and Musk, I mean, they're just on a different level than anyone else. And something like this should never be able to happen.
Yeah, and Bezos, like, honestly doesn't care about, like, you can rip him a new asshole. He doesn't care. That's
If it
why
even gets to him.
Yeah, like, he almost gets off on it. Like,
You think?
I was so shocked when Bernard called him out and he actually agreed to go to 15 an hour because he called him out. And then, like, but now he's just to the point where he just doesn't care. Like, to him, even the ridicule means power.
What makes you say he gets off on it? I'm curious.
What's that?
What makes you say he gets off on it?
Well, the penis rock. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
But,
no,
like,
that's fair. I mean, maybe. He had to have known he was setting himself up. I mean, no one saw that rocket and was like, that looks like a dick. Everybody, like, no one didn't see that.
People have said his head looks like a penis for years.
So he embraced it.
Yeah.
He's like, well, here's a
He's like,
penis
yeah, it may
rocket that
look
you
like
all
a
paid
penis,
for.
But I'm rich.
All right. So let's move on to digital libraries. So you probably recall the book Mouse was,
Yes.
that's how you say it, right? Like you just say
Yeah.
it like mouse. Okay. That was banned by a Tennessee school board. And what happened was it was banned because of nudity. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, the comic book Mouse is a comic book about the Holocaust that features cartoon mice. It's being portrayed through cartoon mice. So this Tennessee school board was angry over naked cartoon mice because when you see a mouse in the wild, they are fully clothed usually. But these mice did not have clothes on. So that's what they took. They took offense to. That was what they were angry about. So I think their next move is they're going to go protest in pet stores. But anyway, the publisher of Mouse wants the book taken off the Internet Archive because of profit. Turns out you can burn a digital book. So when the Tennessee school board removed Mouse, again, because of the scandalous naked mice, so they're trying to also get it off of archive.org and off of all these digital libraries as well. And they're having these lawsuits saying that it's mass copyright infringement. The soaring book sales are, of course, the result of a school board limiting access to the book. Author Art Spiegelman's Pulitzer Prize-winning work, which uses cats and mice to tell his father's experience as a Holocaust survivor, has been used by many schools to help teach the atrocities of that period to children. The Penguin House request is colored by that context, making it seem like the publisher is trying to profit off of a culture wars fight. This is far from the first time book publishers have taken issue with the Internet Archive's library. In 2020, as public libraries across the country remained shuttered due to the COVID-19 pandemic, publishers sued the Internet Archive and accused the organization of mass copyright infringement. So these publishers are now trying to get it off of the digital library because they're saying, wait a second, people are buying this book and we're making money. It's messed up that a school board banned it, but you can't have it in your digital library because we got money to make. Maybe people are buying it to burn it. We don't give a shit. We just want it. So we want to take it out of the digital libraries too. So now there's a digital book burning for money. There's an actual book burning because of these archaic views by the Tennessee school board, which, by the way, whenever somebody tries to tell you that acting locally doesn't matter in politics, or whenever they're not paying attention to what's going on locally in politics, you point them to the Tennessee school board and tell them that shit like school board doesn't matter. Tell them it doesn't matter. Look at the Tennessee school board banning books about the Holocaust that are important educational tools. I got to admit, though, I'm a little sheepish in admitting this. I've actually never read Mouse. Have you?
I haven't either. And as a literature major, I mean,
Yeah, that's even worse. We're both pieces of shit. God damn it. We are both just, God. I bet we probably lost some viewers like right now. They're like, neither one of you assholes have read Mouse.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that it is banned makes me want to read it like that much more.
And
I mean, it
you
really
know,
does.
it's kind of interesting. There's a professor out of Carnegie Mellon University, which is in Pittsburgh, where I grew up. And during the summers when I was in college, my summer job was I worked at the textbook just the shipping and receiving warehouse at Carnegie Mellon University. I worked there for years. And there was a class on banned books that I'm pretty sure would use mouse because I have like stocked so many copies of that graphic novel. And I never took the time to just sit and read it. I mean, I've like glanced at it before, I've like paged through it before, but I never just sat down and read it cover to cover. And when I worked that job, I read so many books because whenever like we weren't getting shipments in, there was just downtime. And I worked in a book warehouse. What are you going to do? You're going to read books. I mean, I read a ton of books. It was pretty cool. But I never just sat down and read mouse cover to cover. And interestingly enough, the person who taught that banned books class was speaking out about what was happening with mouse in the Tennessee School Board. And I reached out to her to be on the show. So I thought that would be, I never heard back from her, but I thought it would be really interesting that like I'm having this professor on and I could be like, hey, by the way, many years ago, I stocked books for your class. I shipped books to the
Yeah.
store for your class. But
Yeah, that's awesome. There was, and I'm kicking myself that I don't remember where this was, but there was a school I touched on my show last month. There was a school who went to their library and was pulling all books they felt should be banned, whether, Catcher in the Rye is my favorite book ever. And they were saying that should be banned. And, even ones that just shouldn't be banned. Like, it was absurd. And then they came out with this thing that they were holding librarians and parents of the children's accountable. And what they were doing is they would charge the parents over $1,000 if their kid brought home a book from the library and had something, distasteful in it, and they didn't report it to the library. Then if the librarian didn't report it within like 7 days, they would be fired. Like, it was insane. It was great. Like, you need to be happy kids are even still reading books.
well, I was just about to say, here's an important PSA that I feel like whoever needs to hear this, and it's probably not. I mean, the people listening to this show probably don't need to hear this, but
Right.
just in case, if you find yourself going after libraries, librarians, and kids who are reading, your anger is grossly misdirected,
Yeah.
and there's something seriously wrong with you. All right? Just take that home with you. If you're thinking, we got to stop these librarians. They're freaking dangerous, providing educational materials to people free of charge. They're freaking dangerous. We all know. I mean, most people get into library science for the big paycheck, though. I mean, that is true. I mean, librarians, they just get paid
Ulterior
out the wazoo,
motives.
and they don't work really, really long hours or anything like that. They're just in it for love of the game. I'm not saying a librarian's not a great career path. It certainly is. I'm just saying the people who do that, they're there because they love libraries. They're not there because they're getting some fat paycheck or that they have some hidden agenda to poison your children with these toxic ideas of
That would be
great
so
books.
painful. Like, you're like, I need to keep my job. I love my job. It's the only job I've ever known, and I love working with tangible books. But if I don't report this book that I find so beautiful and so, inspiring, I'm going to lose my job. Like, I cannot even fathom as a literature major that kind of pain. Like, I don't know. I don't think I could do it.
And they're always demonizing libraries too. Like they're always doing that. And there's always been this attack on like libraries in the digital space. And by the way, to connect it to our first story today, Amazon did that. Amazon had a big campaign against like digital libraries because they were worried that it was cutting into their Audible sales and the the Kindle books that they sell.
Right.
So they were cracking down on digital libraries too. They were going after them too, and they were trying to have their little bookstores be a substitute for digital books at the library. So this is nothing new. And now, and you know what really also sours me, you know, getting back to this particular story where Penguin book publishers are going after these digital copies of Mouse because they're worried about their profits. You know, whenever you see, everybody was like patting places like Barnes and Noble on the back for having a banned book section and stuff like that, saying, hey, at least like they're kind of doing something. Like, we know they're a big corporation or whatever, but at least they're kind of doing something cool here. Well, in reality, when Penguin publisher or whatever book publisher, major book publishers, which, you know, are few and far between, but whenever they do stuff like this, that taints all of that, because that's saying like you don't give a hoot about actually like getting these books out there and getting these ideas out there and standing up against the idea of censorship or stifling of ideas or whatever else. You just care about trying to make a couple bucks off of something. You're just profiting off of it. That's why you're trying to make Mouse less accessible to people. If you really cared, you know what you would be doing with libraries? You'd be donating copies of the frickin' book. That's what you'd be doing. And you've already made plenty of money off of that book. Only a handful of books make money ever. I think it's something like I think it's like 1% actually. It might be like 9 or 10%, but like there's only this small percentage of books that make money. So when you have like titles like Mouse that have been used as educational resources for years and years and years and years, you've made some bucks off of that book. And books like that keep you in business. And I'm glad to see publishers in business. I don't want to see book publishers go out of business. But when you're going to pull this bullshit, that's a bad look. That is a damn bad look. You should be donating copies of that book.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's move on to some good news. No, I'm just kidding. It's guys, we did it. Check this out. We have done it. Look at this. Western mega drought worsens to driest in at least 1,200 years. We did it, y'all.
Yes.
Yes, we did. I think so. That 1,200, that's where they got the number for the first stimulus payment that some of us got.
Oh,
that's where they got it. The 1,200, they were just like, okay, we'll give you $1 for every year of the drought that has gotten worse. We'll give you $1, and we reached 1,200. This is the good news is that the stock market's going to be great because of this. I mean, once water is something we're trading, it'll just be great for the stock market. So look on the bright side. Joy, we'll go to the headline in just a second, but I got a question. How do you think a climate scientist just has a regular day? Do you think it's even possible? If I was a climate scientist, just every morning I wake up and I'd be like, when are people going to start listening? Shit! Like, that would just be me every day. Like, every day I would just be screaming.
Yeah, well, I think both of us have interviewed Peter Kalmuth, right?
That guy wakes up screaming. Yeah.
Oh my God. He's so cool, but I can't even imagine how mad, like, not mad angry, but like mad psychologically he goes looking at this, you know, and you know, it was, you know, Republicans don't even acknowledge climate change. We got to vote blue, things like that. Well, look, you know, and Biden made a post the other day, like, you know, if we want this, my Build Back Better has to pass. Listen, you have executive order, like, control. You can do so much. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, how many other countries have at the very least, you know, announced it as a climate catastrophe? And yes, that is just words and it may be performative, but like our country.
But there's actions around it.
What's that?
There's action, like the people who have declared it. I think it's like, is the verbiage, I think the verbiage they use is like an emergency, like a climate emergency.
Right.
It's a catastrophe. Like there's also actions around that. And I will say that, you know, a lot of countries have done it. And I think actually the state of Hawaii has. So there have been some places in the United States that have like done some things on a state level. Like I think Hawaii has like declared it as such, and that's recognized, I think.
Oh, that's awesome. because I think, for the country to acknowledge it, it would be like, you are admitting
Right.
this, so you have to do something. So let's just not acknowledge it, because it's easier to just ignore it then.
So, getting back to this thing, our worst climate change scenario is playing out live, according to a new study. The American West, which is where I live in the American West, the mega drought deepened so much last year that it is now the driest in at least 1,200 years, and is a worst case climate change scenario playing out live. A dramatic drying in 2021, about as dry as 2002, and one of the driest years ever recorded for the region, pushed the 22-year drought past the previous record holder for mega droughts in the late 1500s and shows no signs of easing in the near future, according to a study Monday in the Journal of Natural Climate Change. The study calculated that 42% of this mega drought can be attributed to human-caused climate change. So the genie's out of the bottle. Here, we'll read this quote. Climate change is changing the baseline conditions towards a drier, gradually drier state in the West, and that means the worst-case scenario keeps getting worse, said study lead author Park Williams, a climate hydrologist at UCLA. This is right in line with what people were thinking of in the 1900s as a worst-case scenario. But today, I think we need to be even preparing for conditions in the future that are far worse than this. So studies like this, because when you look at their projections, like it's like the P1, P2, and I think it goes up to like P7. Like you've seen this before, where like P1 is if we do everything, if we really go, balls to the wall, we're going to fix this. And P1 is like what we can likely expect. And by the way, no matter what we do, we're going to be feeling some effects. We already are. Like, it's not like, oh, we're going to completely dodge this bullet. Like, no, it's here. But it's like, how much can we handle? Peter Kalmos, who we've both interviewed before, he says it's like an escalator. Like we can't get off the escalator. Like, we're on it. But we can mitigate how high we go up on it. So P1 is like, if we do everything and we stop going up the escalator the best we can, this is what we can expect. P2, P3, if we keep on doing the bare minimum, which I think it's safe to say as a world, we're doing about the bare minimum. And the reason we're even doing that is because of other countries. Because it's like, you got places like Sweden, Norway, Denmark. They're doing some amazing things. If the rest of the world was like them, we'd be in a much better place as far as climate change goes. But unfortunately, there's places like the United States. And then there's places like China, who they are a very big polluter, but they're also doing these green initiatives. So they're doing a little bit of both. We're just kind of the worst of all worlds. Shocking. But
our military budget is the highest it's ever been. And obviously that contributes more than anything else. And
yep.
We are absolutely making things worse. We have a climate summit and Biden falls asleep during it. It's, we are so fucked in so many ways. And,
Biden fell asleep for it, and CNN sent Wolf Blitzer to the wrong place.
Yeah.
How much? The climate summit was in Glasgow, Scotland. They sent him to frickin' Edinburgh. They just sent him to Edinburgh, and he's just there like, oh shit. That guy got a free trip to Edinburgh. He didn't have to work. He just like, if Brian Williams would have been sent there from formerly of MSNBC, if they would have sent Brian Williams, he just would have pretended he was in Glasgow. To his credit, that guy just would have pretended that he was in Glasgow the entire time. He'd be like, yep, I'm here.
Or caught under Bosnian sniper fire.
There's sniper fire going on here in Glasgow. I'm doing what I can. He just finds like the first kind of like husky guy with messed up blonde hair. And he's like, I'm live now with Boris Johnson. Boris, what's your take on the climate summit? What are you talking about, mate? There goes Boris denying climate change again. He always does this. I am totally in Glasgow. Glasgow is where I am.
Well, and also, if people didn't believe in climate change before, they should listen to Amy Klobuchar's, awesome joke about being caught in a blizzard, and, the joke she told about 10 million times about, well, at least my hair moves in the wind.
Oh
So
my God, that cringe Trump joke that she had. Is that what you're referring
yeah,
to? Because it was about Donald. No one ever, dude. Every time she talks, and I'm not even trying. Like, I'm not trying to be mean here. I'm
it
just
sounds like
being
she's
like,
crying.
yes. Why? She
Yeah,
sounds like she's about to cry. Like, what's it like? She sounds like she is about to cry every
yeah.
time she talks. You can't tell a joke when you sound like she's like, my hair moves in the wind. Like, what are you sad about right now? What's going on? Of course,
Yeah,
no one's gonna laugh at you. Sound like you're about to cry. Like,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know how she got. Well, we do know how. It's she played it the corporate way, but it's amazing how people like that just get into politics. Like, you would think you should at least be able to speak in front of people. It's like, well, every time I speak in front of people, I sound like I'm about to cry. Yeah, that might not inspire voters. I feel like that's not. But like Bill Maher's out there, like, well, actually, this makes me come. Like, okay, you're freaking weird. But
But the best part about it, whoever has not seen Amy's phenomenal joke, please watch the compilation on YouTube. It's like several minutes of her telling it over and over, and each time
no
after
one
she
ever
tells
laughs.
it, she goes
I
and
think
like waits for it, but it's crickets.
oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, I do remember that. I've still repressed so much of the 2020 election. I mean, for so many reasons. Like, there's just so
Yeah.
much. So to just insert a dose of positivity here to close, it's still not too late. We don't have to go to P7. We can go to P2 or P. We're probably not going to be a P1 if we're being real here. Let's shoot for it, but we're probably going to be a P2 or P3. It's not too late, but the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking, and it's so frustrating because it's like, I do my best as an individual, and I'm sure you do too. Like, and that's important. It's great to do your best as an individual, but if we don't see some top bottom change, that's all going to be for nothing. And it's so hard not to feel powerless in those types of situations. But, the good news is that we are in this as one world. So as fucked up as the United States are, at least there's other countries that are taking charge, and hopefully we'll be able to bring the United States kicking and screaming. I mean, honestly, that's like the best hope I got. If the United
Yeah.
States was the world and it was totally up to us, I'd be like, well, we're done.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's like there's other countries who can act outside the United States, there's other countries that, participate in this. I'm not saying that anyone's perfect. No one is. But there are other countries leading the way a lot better than we are. And hopefully we'll just have to follow.
Absolutely.
Right? Fun times. Driest in 1,200 years. 1,200
But by
years.
2050, we're going to act. Okay.
By 2050, there's going to be like 5 less gas-powered cars on the road. So I think we'll be fine. I mean, yeah.
There's a lot to look forward to. Granted, most of us will be like, in nursing homes by then, but it's look forward to it.
That's the craziest thing. Like, if it's like their worst projections, it really is like we're just sort of scavenging. We're just sort of like on our own scavenging. And where it's like if you're not near a fresh body of water and you don't know how to grow food or hunt, you're gonna freaking die. Like, that's their worst case scenario. And I'm not embellishing. Like, that's like, you could read this stuff. Read the P1. I think it's P1 through P7. Read them all. The last one is that freaking dire, and it's not impossible. It's not super likely. Like, this is like the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. But hey, there's studies out there that saying, hey, this is actually even worse than we thought. So yeah, P7 is we are just scraping by for food. That's why when I say on the show, I'm like, learn your local food economy. And I always get people emailing me excuses on why they can't do that. I'm like, look, I'm not trying to tell you how to live. I'm just saying, I highly recommend wherever it is that you live, you learn your local food economy, because you're going to have to. It's a good thing to do anyway, but you're not going to have a choice at some point, probably. Like we're probably going to have some serious disruptions in distribution, maybe sooner than later. So
Absolutely. And I think it's so important we also think about the indigenous peoples. This is going
Mhm.
to affect them, arguably more than anyone else. If we're having a drought, it's not like they go buy water. Like, this is big. And also, we have to think about climate refugees. Like, there are going to be even more people completely desolate and poor and needing social services because they need to pick up and move where they live because of climate change.
Yeah, we don't like to talk about that either. We'll shame people for coming here, but we won't point out the reason they're coming here. They're not coming here because we're the bastion of freedom. That's not why they're coming here. They're coming here because they're climate refugees, because they don't have a freaking choice.
Yep. Like, you don't go to a country that's literally bombing you unless you're desperate.
No kidding. Joy, where can people go to follow all of your stuff?
So my Twitter handle is on this banner. I have
Savage
Drought
Joy
In
Marie 1.
YouTube. You can get my shitlib parody book at savageimpact.com. And definitely check out give M for All a follow. We are doing a 3-day online summit of National Medicare for All. So we're doing 17 hours over 3 days of panels of activists and doctors and people sharing personal stories. And we haven't announced the people we're having yet, but some very incredible people in the activist community, and also some musicians and things like that. But it's going to be a 3-day weekend, so March 11th through 13th. Also, I'm totally going to brag. I just found out yesterday that I'm having Steven Donziger on my show next week. So definitely check that out because it's going to be amazing. I'm kind of fangirling a little bit, but yes.
All
So
right.
subscribe, please.
All right. Thanks for being here, Joy. Always a pleasure. Peace.
Thank you.
All right. That was Savage Joy. Check out all of her stuff. Follow her on Twitter. Check out her show. Check out the Stephen Donziger interview. What's up to the chat? Venetia David, what's up? I hope all is well in the UK. There are so many Amazon supermarkets showing up in the UK. We have to boycott them before they take over some of the food supply. Yeah. They're already taking over a lot of the food supply because keep in mind, like, he also owns Whole Foods. So I feel ya. And I've heard of I haven't seen one of the Amazon supermarkets. I'm pretty sure we have a couple in the States as well. Like, and these aren't Whole Foods. These are straight up the Amazon supermarkets. I've heard of these things. I've not seen one yet, but yeah. And you're saying they're showing up in the UK. That is frightening. That is absolutely frightening. Cause yeah, it's so that guy, he is trying to control just basically all of distribution for goods, right? I mean, you can find anything on Amazon. He's trying to like control food. I mean, what's going to happen when he's trying? I mean, by the way, we're in a big drought. What's going to happen when Bezos gets into freaking water, which I think he's already tried to do? I mean, we could live in a world where it's like Bezos bucks is the main currency, and he like that's his main thing. He's just emperor. He's just emperor. But Venetia, I hope all is well in the UK. And I can't wait to see you there on tour, hopefully sooner rather than later. Melissa H., what's up? I know I'll be seeing you sooner because I'll be seeing you in Vermont, which I can't wait to see you there, which, by the way, I'll plug the tour dates real quick. Tour dates, I got them. Go to romplacone.com. Get your tickets now. I'll be in April. I'll be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Burlington, Vermont, Portland, Maine, Boston, Mass, New York City. That's happening in April. Again, Pittsburgh, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, going up to Canada, Burlington, Portland, Boston, New York. Get tickets at romplacone.com. Chris Moen's going to be opening those shows, and Lauren Ashcraft is going to be opening in New York and in Pittsburgh. And we're going to have a very special guest in Boston. Very special guest in Boston. Their name rhymes with Bill Bine. Huh? Melissa, Ryan Higgins comic book shop in California is notating 100 copies of Mouse to Tennessee parents after learning of the school board removal of the book from the school. I heard about that. Yes, I heard about that. I didn't remember the details on the comic book shop, but you're saying it's Ryan Higgins is the person's name, and their comic book shop in California is notating 100 copies of Mouse to Tennessee parents after learning of the school board removal of the book from the school. What a ridiculous. How did they say their ridiculous excuse with a straight face? Why are you banning this book? It educates about the Holocaust. It's a book. I mean, it's talking about his parents surviving the Holocaust. There's naked cartoon mice. What? There's naked cartoon mice. They're naked cartoons. Mice don't wear clothes. Yes, but they're what else do they? These parents are. We are banning the cartoon DuckTales. It is softcore pornography. We will not have this. School board's not important though. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about what goes on. Don't worry about what goes on in your school board. Melissa H, thank you very much for that super chat contribution. Venetia David, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. You help keep this show on the air. And by the way, if you want to help support this show on the sustainability end, best way to do it, patreon.com/romplacone. For Give What You Can, Love You get all kinds of cool perks. You get video clips not available anywhere else. And speaking of which, I dropped a stand-up clip yesterday from the show that I did at Flappers on February 10th. We had a really fun show that night. Dave Carter did a set. Graham Elwood did a set. Raja Michael did a set. Sarah K. Godot did a set. Patrick Devine did a set. We had a really fun show. And my full set I dropped for the patrons and the Rockfin Premium members. So that full set is available now, and you can get it on Patreon for a Give What You Can level. Even $1 a month goes a long way. I'm working on a new album. I'm working on a new album for an hour, for an album. And preview, a sneak preview is available now. Full set, patreon.com/romplacone. Give What You Can level. Even $1 a month goes a long way. All right. Thank you again, Venetia David and Melissa H, for the super chat contributions. Very much appreciated. Tour dates, get those tickets now, romplacone.com. Check out all of Joy's stuff. She'll be back next month. And, you know the drill in the meantime. What's the drill? You know it. Lucy, she says meow. I say peace, love, and a general strike. Peace.